Let's and welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 412. I'm your host, Blain, and I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good afternoon.
For those of you watching on YouTube, you're probably looking at us wondering, what the hell are they wearing? Uh, I'm wearing my HMCS Montreal hockey jersey and hat, and Matt is wearing his JTF1 camouflage jersey.
Yeah. Air Task Force Iraq. Yeah.
And we are wearing these simply because today, as we record, it is Remembrance Day, and it's been a bit of a long day for some of us, and we have spent our time uh, at ceremonies, remembering friends and family, and now we get to talk about some hockey
And a win.
and a win.
When was the last time we said that?
uh, like 2 weeks.
Yeah, end of October. Game against the
So
Flyers.
yeah, so the Canadiens finally pull out a win. It's their first win in this is after 6 losses in a row. Granted, one of them was an overtime loss, so they had 1 point in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they beat the Sabres, and so this is what it feels like to score 7.
Yeah, it's nice to be on this side of it. They still let up
Yeah,
5, however, which again we're going to get into
true.
for sure. Definitely a topic of conversation to get into, but yeah,
So
it's
they
nice
needed
to
the set.
see
They needed the
some
7 just to
people
get
eating
the
some
win.
chicken wings today.
Yeah, in both Buffalo and Montreal,
Yeah.
because that crowd in Buffalo was Habs heavy.
They really were. There's a lot of red in the audience, that's for sure.
Oh, unlike Tampa, Buffalo doesn't care if you wear your team's colors.
Right.
Just come on in, buy our beer and tickets. We're
Yep.
happy to have you. Like real hockey towns,
Yes.
which Buffalo is, by the way. I know
It is. It
we
is.
tease them a bit, but Buffalo's a hockey town.
They're a good Buffalo city, or they're a good Buffalo city, good hockey city.
They are. All right, so the Habs finally pull out that win. They get the 7 goals. Caulfield gets 2 on a power play, each one. Suzuki scores 2 goals in 28 seconds,
Yeah.
all because of Slavkovsky's great forechecking
Yeah.
and quick passes. And those 2 goals were essential for the Canadiens because that
They
put them
were.
ahead going into the
Well,
third.
it was nice to see. Like you
Yeah,
go up, you have your lead, you have a 28-second lead, you let up a goal, and then you get a 2-1 goal. You go up, and then all of a sudden it's like 19 seconds later, and it's like, guys, like there's got to be some sort of urgency afterwards. You know that the other side is going to come with a little bit more push after a goal against, and
or
we
any
saw,
push.
yeah, we saw it on both goals, and I'm glad that it wasn't that way the entire game, but still a lot more goals in the net for what the Canadians would have liked to have given up. That's for sure.
Yeah. Um, and part of the good news here is that Caulfield's 2 goals put him back into the league lead with
Yes,
12.
12 goals. Yeah,
So he is producing uh, at the level that everyone had hoped.
yeah.
So that's not a disappointment. I don't know. I know there was a lot of talk in our last episode about what we're disappointed with. His name never came up for
No,
obvious reasons. Suzuki, he exploded for 3 points, two
four
goals and
points.
assist.
They gave him
Four?
an
Oh,
extra
that's right.
assist. Yeah, they put an assist on the Dvorak goal at the end.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The Pacioretty special.
yeah,
Yeah. So so 4 points, and he had been kind of sluggish for a while, and he's starting to show some signs of life again. Emil Heineman scored a goal. Josh frickin' Anderson
that was a nice goal,
scored.
and it was a nice
Yeah.
pass from Dvorak as well.
Yes, it was. Oh, well, that was a great breakout pass by Dvorak. Excellent
Absolutely.
vision to pick him out all by himself on a breakaway, which, you know, it's Dvorak. No one expected him to do that, but there you go. He's got a
Right.
goal and an assist after that.
You know what? That line, the last few games, has actually been producing. It's
It
we
has.
saw at the start of the year, Dvorak was just kind of playing with the extras. He was either playing with Pizzetta, or he was playing with Kapanen, or he was playing with Heineman, or he was playing with whoever. It was whoever's the extras in the lineup. And now we've seen him playing with Gallagher and Anderson, and Gallagher's really been going this whole season. And I
He
think
has.
that I
He's been
think that
something.
he's given a little bit of energy to that line, and we saw it a little bit today with, yes, it was an empty net for Dvorak getting a second of the year, but they all count at the end of the day. He had a couple points. He's not looking, he didn't have a terrible game. So I'm hoping that for everyone involved, that this is going to be a little bit more of a push for the team, and then we're going to see this level of effort against Minnesota on Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to see any let up. You want to see them continue. I know they're not going to get 7 goals in the next
No,
game, but it would be nice to see them get 4.
and I should see them get another win. Right? I don't care how they
Yeah.
happen. Like you a lot of people are excited where the team is right now,
Yeah.
towards the bottom of the standings, because they look at some of the prospects that are going to be available with Hagens and Mertone and all them, and Misa, and there's some great players that are going to be available. However, like, you got to build a winning culture as well.
You do.
You got
You
to
can
take that
still
fan
do
base
that
with
with,
you.
you can still build a winning culture even if you're losing games.
But
It's
it's how they're losing, or how they've been losing games.
how they lose.
Right.
What you're willing to accept from your players if you're is still losing. Like, are they
Absolutely.
giving you everything they have? Are they putting in that effort? Are they just being outclassed a little bit? Like last year, yeah, they lost a lot of games, but they were close games, and you can tell that they were battling to be in those games. They just lacked skill.
Right.
This year, they've got a little bit more skill, but they're not battling like they were last year, and
No.
that's where the culture has to be put into.
See, like, when I look into this game, it was the big guys that stepped up, the big contracts, I guess, that stepped up with really mainly Slafkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki. You had a 4 point game from Suzuki. You said he scored the 2 goals within, it was what,
20
30 sec,
seconds,
yeah, 22
28.
seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, Great game for him. And with the talks of the Four Nations tournament coming up, and that team going to be announced on the 4th of December, you got to think he's got a little bit extra fire. He's one of those bubble guys right now, to make that team, as is Sam Montembeault.
Yeah.
And apparently Don Sweeney was in attendance, who's the GM of that team. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he knew he was there, but he put up a great performance today. Slavkovsky put up 3 primary assists,
Yep.
and
And not just quickies either. Like he had to
no,
work to get that
yes,
puck.
yes, yeah, especially that second one when he went in on the forecheck, and it was just, that's what you want to see out of this guy. And I was a little bit surprised, and I don't know if the lines are gonna stay the same. Usually they don't screw up a winning lineup, but I was a little surprised to see Doc still on that line when Slafkovsky moved back up. I thought it was going to be Caulfield staying on that line. I didn't really like what I saw that much from that line of Evans, Newhook, and Caulfield. Um, I just think that you've got a really defensive center playing with two guys that are kind of used to playing the game with a little bit more speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
I so and it kind of takes that size element out of your top six.
it does.
But again, it worked. It worked today. Like, yes, Caulfield scored 2 goals, but they were both on the power play. The line itself did really nothing on 5-on-5.
Yeah, exactly. He produced when he was with Suzuki again
Right.
because no offense to Evans or Newhook, but Suzuki, Slavkovsky, those guys are just a little bit ahead on the offensive side.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that he produces more with them.
Yeah.
Um, and I agree that that whole you're trying to find lines with identity. So you mentioned the third line. That line has been pretty much together all year because
Right.
their identity is crash bang, straight lines. They're old, like a mid 2000s style checking line,
Right.
which is effective. I mean, Gallagher's on pace for almost 40 goals this year, so
Which is insane.
something's working.
It's insane. People were talking about buying him out or trade him to Columbus for nothing.
Which before the season started, I completely understand because It's 6.5 million for a guy who's still on a decline, but at least we're seeing a little bit of a peak in this
Right.
in this last few years. Great. I hope he does score 30 this year just because. But I understand why people wanted to buy him out. Not a good idea considering there were 3 years
Right.
left, but still. And the fourth line, you got three big bodies who can all play physical, who can all crash and bang, who can play well on the cycle. With Heineman there, who can snipe. He got one tonight uh, with a great shot.
With a
Um,
great pass from Lane Hudson as well, who started
yes,
that play. He
with a
retrieved
forecheck,
he retrieved so smallest guy in the team goes in on a
a
forecheck.
defenseman.
Yeah, and a defenseman. But he retrieved the puck and then he waited it out and he found a guy with a good shot with Heineman. And all of a sudden the Canadians tie the game. And it was all Canadians after that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we've got the identity for the second, the third and fourth line, but the second line has zero identity. I mean, they just
Yeah.
slapped it together. The first line, uh, with Doc up there with Slavkovsky and Suzuki, I mean, you got a couple of really good players, one that's kind of not doing too well right now. But sure, yeah, those are big guys with skill, but there's
I'll
no
say it though.
identity there.
I'll say the Doc did get two secondary assists on both of the goals that Suzuki scored. So
Yeah,
Suzuki from Slav and Doc on both. And on the first one, he did win a board battle to get the puck over to Slavkovsky. So I like to see that, and I'm seeing a little bit more physicality from him, which is nice. However, we've talked about this multiple times. If they brought him in to be a center,
and be a center.
you got to be a center or you at least got to be driving your own line. Right now, you've got Suzuki that's supposed to be driving the top line. He did tonight. It was a big 2 points for the team, big 4 points for him.
Yeah,
300 career points now as well.
it's true. In under 400 games,
Yeah,
that's one of the faster ones in Canadians history. I think what like
right. He's fourth, I think, all time, third or fourth
something
all
like
time.
that.
Yeah,
It's up there.
yeah,
Still, it's impressive. He had a really good game,
yeah.
offensively speaking, production wise, but not just that. His two-way game looked really well as
Yes,
well. I mean, he was
yeah,
going up against Tage Thompson to start the game until Thompson had to leave, but
right.
he didn't look out of place. He looked like he was actually the Suzuki we saw last year.
Yes. The one place
So
that they got killed was face-offs, however.
yeah. Yeah.
I think they only won 30, let's
They
see,
won a
no,
face-off.
39% of face-offs tonight.
It just felt like they never won a
Yeah,
face-off.
yeah,
I mean, just going by feels.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so overall, the game itself, I thought, yeah, they really, really did look good offensively. They had some good moments defensively as well, despite the 5 goals against. And that's where I want to get into now is the goals against.
Right.
I'm not really putting the blame on the defensive structure or the defensive play of the forwards or defensemen. I'm honestly, and I hate doing this, but I have to blame just one guy.
Yeah. The one that did it for me was the Paterka goal. The one that got him pulled that with that little weak backhand. And it was like that was enough. That was all I needed to see. And it was like get this guy out of the game. And I'm very happy that they St. Louis on the bench said, yeah, that's enough. We had already seen Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen pulled for on the other side, and Levi was in for the Sabres. It was a couple, it wasn't a great game for either goaltender, but it was very apparent that Primo really struggled. I'm going to bring it up here. He allowed 4 goals, 5 goals on 14 shots.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's a 650 something.
643
There,
save
there you
percentage. Yeah.
go. There you
Yeah.
go. Just off the top of my head, I was thinking like
which is pretty
six
which is pretty near
fifty
close
something.
to which is pretty much clear to or close to his numbers this year anyway, right? So he hasn't looked good. He hasn't. This is his time. The team has worked with him and worked with him and worked with him. And now it's like, okay, here's the reins. We don't have a three goalie system anymore. Allen is gone. The mentor, the veteran, he's gone and he's playing well in New Jersey. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, here's the reins. Like you are the backup now. And he has not done anything to prove that they made the right decision.
Now, to stay in the NHL as a backup, you have to have a really good mental game. You have to be focused. And you see him play some great games at times, and then
Yes.
he completely craps the bed at other times. And tonight was one of those times where he didn't do that well. And I think it's a lack of focus. Uh, Canadians score a goal. He gives one up, within seconds. Now, whether or not the goal is good or bad doesn't matter. The fact that he's not able to make that save, like it's not like he was completely deked out on a 3-on-0 here.
Yeah.
Like these,
Well, look at the one
they're
that
not really bad goals, but they're
look at
goals
the
that he
Krebs
could
goal.
have stopped.
Right? Look at the
Yeah,
Krebs goal, the third
yeah,
goal, which was another one of those quick succession goals. They scored within a minute, 59 seconds, a minute, whatever it was after the Cousins goal,
5 seconds.
tie it. And but it was a bang bang type play. Heineman goes off after blocking a shot. It's a really bad line change from the Canadians.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, there's a 2-on-1, but the thing is, he's out. He's out. He's challenging the shooter, and it just beats him clean. Like that is a
yeah.
time where you need to save, and they weren't able to get that. And then again, the one that broke it for me was the Paterka goal on the backhand. It was like that's enough, and just lost confidence in him all 100%. And I tweeted that he's not NHL caliber to get him out of the game, etc. And again, they made the decision, but it's something's got to change here. You got to have a backup, and you got to have goaltending that gives the offense confidence. It took a long time, even it took a long time, even when Carey Price was the guy. Every
Mm.
time he played, didn't matter who they were playing. If it could have been the best team in the league, could have been the worst team in the league. You always knew you had an opportunity to win a game. It was going to probably be a close one with Carey Price in net. And it took many years to bring in a backup, which they finally did with Jake Allen, that gave you a little bit of confidence when he played. Canadians don't have that right now.
No, no, they don't. Last year they did. I mean, the tandem that the triplets that they
The
had last
trio,
year,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, um, they were able to give them the majority of the games were games where the goaltender kept them in and gave
right.
them a chance to win.
And
That's the
this was
difference
something,
this year.
and this was something that we talked about in our kind of our preseason
Yeah,
show, is
yeah.
that those goaltenders had to play to that level, if not better, this year. And so far, both of them have been subpar. One much more than the other, but
I mean, yeah, Montembeau had a couple bad games to his repertoire this year, but he's also been great in other games. So he's kind of
exactly.
on overall has been pretty good. I mean, overall.
Yeah.
But last year he was great, and
Yes.
that's I think the difference. The goaltending hasn't been, like top of the heap on saves above expected, which is something this team would need if they were to stay, air quotes, in the mix.
Right.
So that's the biggest issue. So in that, um, do you think it's time that they finally find a different goalie and move on from Primo?
Well,
Judging by your tweet, I'm guessing you mean yes.
it's the perfect time to slide this guy on waivers. If their big thing was this guy's going to get picked up, we put him on waivers. I don't see a goalie that has the numbers of Caden Primo getting picked up by an NHL team right now
No,
to put him on their NHL roster. If they're going to do it, this is the time to do it. And a lot of people are tweeting that maybe Dobas should come up. He looked very good during the preseason. And he stopped and he played some good games against more ready NHL rosters. He's got the size. He's started the year very well in Laval. However, do you want to screw up a good thing with Laval playing the way that they are? They've only lost twice this year. They've got a great
Yeah.
structured team, and it's gone on both sides. Hughes has played well, as has Dobesh.
Yes. And Gobes is back from injury now.
Yes,
So if he was
but do
still
you,
out injured, I can
yeah,
see that
yes,
working.
yeah. But do you want to screw up a good thing and then be
No.
like, okay, let's take Primo, who's been struggling, who likely isn't going to be back next year, and give him this guy's minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. Um, I did tweet out Capo Kakinen has been put on waivers by the Colorado
Yeah.
Avalanche. He started the year with Winnipeg as more or less their number three or even their number two. Was outplayed by Comrie, was put on waivers. Colorado picked him up because Colorado does everything right except for save the puck. And they've been looking for goaltending. They've been looking for a little bit of momentum in the last little while. They've seen it with Grigoriev. He's played a little bit better, but not that great. But Julius
Hmm.
Altonen's been playing much better. So they made the decision. He's on waivers. Val Natushkin should be coming back here pretty soon. So they got to make some room anyway. He played one game. He's got a 4.12 goals against and 800 save. However, I think that was against Tampa,
Yeah, that was a bad game overall by Colorado, to be
right?
honest. Um,
But last
over his
year,
career, though,
yeah,
over his
overall his
career,
years is he's got backup numbers,
yeah, when he's playing as a backup, his numbers look really solid because
yeah,
he's not having to face the top shooters every
yeah,
single game. When he was a starter, albeit in San Jose, who, let's be honest, sucked those
yeah,
years,
yeah,
like bad, his
yep,
numbers were down.
yeah.
But I mean, as a backup, I think he would be plausible. He's on a 1 year deal for 1 million bucks, which is just slightly more than what Primo's making now,
Well,
who's in the final year of
I'm
his
looking
deal.
at his numbers right now from when he got traded in New Jersey last year.
Yeah.
Okay. In the 6 games he played, so he came in one relief appearance. He was 1-4. However, that one win was a shutout, but he had a 923 save percentage and a 2.51 goals against. I can't say that he was the issue in those games.
No,
And
no.
and could he find a little bit of that flash going to a new team? Who knows? But it's an area of concern for the Canadiens. He's 28 years old. He's on a expiring contract. That could be a guy that I could see them at least taking a look at. The other one I'll bring up, I don't, I'm not a fan of the player. I've never been a fan of the player, but the
Yeah.
other one's James Reimer. And even though he hasn't been put on waivers yet, with how um, their goalie is played, I can't remember his name. Um, in Anaheim, Dostal, Lucas Dostal, with how he's played and John Gibson coming back from an injury, he's expendable. He's played 2 games so far. They're both losses. 864 save with a 4.5 goals against average, but he's a veteran goalie. And he's used to making more starts. He's been there, he's been around the league, etc. He is not my choice. However, don't be surprised if people start talking about him if they pass on Kakinen, if he finds himself on waivers. Don't be surprised if people talk about him. That's why I'm bringing him up. But my choice would be either you're riding it out with Primo, which is what I don't want, or you take a chance on a guy like Capo Kakinen and you see what you can do.
So whoever they bring in, they're not looking for, lights out numbers. Like a 900
No,
save percentage would be more than acceptable. Actually, it'd be ideal
I
considering
just
what they
want to
have in
see a guy that's
replacement.
back there where when the puck gets shot, you're not like, it's gonna go in, right? Like I don't want to see that, right? And
And that's a dump in.
and it's a dump in. Yeah, exactly. Right. I want a goalie that's going to give me some confidence.
Um, yeah, yeah, somebody that you can reliably trust. I get it.
Yes.
I get it. But the issue is no matter who you bring in, what do you do with Primo? Because we talked about him going down to Laval being a non-starter just because you don't want to screw that up.
Yeah.
So you pick up, say, Kakinen on waivers. So what do you do with Primo? You put him on waivers and hope someone takes him?
I think it's if he does clear and goes down to Laval, it's you've got to earn your ice time. If he's not putting the work in practice, if he's not putting the work in to demonstrate that he wants to be the guy and wants to get himself back into the NHL, that's where he stays.
Yeah.
I don't like saying this about a guy that has promise,
He
right?
he does.
He's got a good pedigree and he's got good numbers over his career outside the NHL.
He needs a team that can really defend properly. Like he's not a goalie that'll make the team look good. He's
No,
a goalie that needs his team to play okay to look good.
right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's, that he's still a decent goaltender, a decent backup for a team that can actually, compete for a playoff spot.
Right.
For the Canadians, it doesn't seem to be working.
No. It's a confidence thing, as you said.
I
It
think so.
is, you see him and his head flies back when he lets a puck in and everything. It's like
Yeah.
something's got to be done at this point.
Now, it likely he'd clear. So
Yes.
if would to get rid of his contract, to have him move somewhere where he would actually have an NHL opportunity, Hughes would more than likely have to trade him for futures and add a pick to him to get him out. So is that something you'd be willing to do? Like add in a fourth round pick just to have him moved out?
Hard to say at this point.
I mean, his contract's super cheap. It's in the last
It
year of a
is.
deal.
It is.
Um, Maybe a fifth round pick could do it. I don't know, but you would more than likely have to add a pick to Primo and take back futures.
It's a potential. Like I don't know at this point. I want to see in a way I don't want to give him another chance, but in a way I kind of want to see like one more. But I'm kind of thinking that most of the fan base is just through with giving him chances at this point.
Yeah.
The team
And
going into this game, they were 32 in the league,
yeah,
right? This is not a
yeah,
place that the Canadians or their fans expected them to be. I know that we've preached in the mix and the mix and the mix. They have been so far out of the mix, especially the month of November.
yeah,
So,
yeah. They've gone from 32 to 31.5. They've
well,
moved their way up.
well, well,
Woo!
we got the league leader in goals. Even though
Right?
they're letting up even though they're letting up the most goals a game, they've let up the most goals in the
Yeah.
league.
But their power play and their penalty kill
Has
are
looked
both in
better.
the upper half of the league.
Yeah.
So that's a massive improvement over
Yeah.
over the last year.
Yeah.
They just need to figure out this whole 5-on-5 thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super easy.
When other years it was like, yeah, bring it. We'll take you 5-on-5, but how about I just punch you in the face after we take a penalty because it was the best thing to do, really. Like
Yeah.
their power play was awful.
Rather go 4-on-4.
May as well. Just don't go anything with a 5-on-3 for the Canadians because it's fucking
Jesus. They give up
awful.
goals. They give up goals
It's
enough.
so bad.
Um, all right. So I think that pretty much does it for this quickie episode. It's been a big day. The Canadians finally got the win. We talked about that. It is Remembrance Day, so you know I'm mentally exhausted. I'm sure you are as well from everything that we've had to do and talk about today. Um, so do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, I'll bring up one thing. Jacob Fowler,
Yes.
Canadians stud.
Speaking of goalies,
Yeah, stud goaltender. out of Boston College. He is currently 7-1 this season. 950 save percentage and a 1.26 goals against average in his sophomore season, with 3 shutouts. The future is bright in Montreal when it comes to goaltending. He was just named Hockey's Goaltender of the Week as well.
Hmm.
This guy is, do not rush this guy.
No.
Whatever they need to do to have a smooth transition from him going from college hockey into the NHL, you make it happen. This guy is a gamer. This guy's the future in Montreal as a goaltender. And with numbers like that, it's you have to be excited for Jacob Fowler.
Yeah. Give him another year in the NCAA. Give him a year in the AHL, something along those lines.
Right,
I agree. Do not rush. And I don't think they plan on it based on the 3-year deal they gave Motombo.
right.
Staying with the NCAA for my final thoughts. Uh, I know everyone's Michael Hage this, Michael Hage that, but somebody is being left out of the discussion. That's Sam Harris.
He's looked very good for Denver. Yeah.
He has.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid, he's got 9 goals. He's over a point per game.
Yeah.
He's the leader in goals on that team, and that team's 10-0.
Right.
Like they're a wagon so far this year,
Yeah.
and it's looking like they're going to be going back to the Frozen Four.
It sure looks that way.
By the way, I think they won it last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think they did.
So
Yeah.
Harris being a 5th round pick, it's starting to look like a pretty decent pick, and then it looks like Montreal's doing well with those 5th rounders.
Yeah.
So yeah, the prospect pool's looking strong. It'd be nice to see a little bit more out of the goalies, a little bit better defensive structure. We're gonna see that. We're gonna see what they can do on the next game Thursday against Minnesota. Um, Fingers crossed. But that pretty much does it for this episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank everyone for all their well wishes and their messages to us all day long, sending out their thoughts to us about Remembrance Day and uh, their thanks and all. Thank you for thanking us, I guess. We just work. That's all it is. So
Yeah.
again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I thank you for making this community much more positive than we've seen other communities be. And if you're talking about it, so are we.